So, rowdy small towns. I did one this week, and um, I'm not beyond assessing an audience and being like, these people are gonna hate me. And
Same, me too.
especially post transition, I look at like Shelburne, Ontario. We did a gig. I have no idea what the population is, but it's far enough rural that you look around and people came up to me after the show and they were like, you're the first of your kind I've ever met. And
I've gotten that too.
yeah,
Like, really?
yeah. So I'm sure you can relate. Like you assess an audience and you're like, oh, I do not fit in here. Let's see how this goes. This is gonna be rough.
Yeah, most times I've been pleasantly surprised. Like I haven't had anything horrifying or like frightening happen, but yeah, I've walked in and I've been like, oh, okay. Not sure how this is gonna go, but you just go and you do your stuff, and I've always been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I think if you stand with your material and it's solid and it's well structured, then, and if it's universal, you just have to make sure there's a universality to it all,
Exactly. Hi everyone, welcome back to Shooting the Breeze Season 4. This week, my guest is Al Val. Al Val is a comedian based out of Toronto. We met face-to-face for the first time at Just for Laughs in Montreal back in June, and she was kind enough to take the time to sit with me today. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, Simone.
You're very welcome. You're very
welcome. If it's who the hell am I? Can I swear?
Absolutely.
I always forget to ask. Who the fuck am I? That intro made me out to be so benevolent for giving you my time. I'm so busy between playing fucking Overwatch and napping.
Napping's important. So.
Yeah, you're so lucky I could fit you into my busy schedule.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful. Good. I remember the first time I met you because I'd been following you on like Instagram and TikTok. And so I remember I went like this and you looked at me like, who the fuck is that? But then you were so sweet. You're like, hi, can I have a hug? And I was like, absolutely, yes. Because I follow you, it's like, oh yeah, we're comics. Yeah, of course we know each other, but we didn't. So
yeah. So and it always takes me a second to recognize anybody. And it took me that extra second because we've only known each other through TikTok.
Yeah, online, exactly. Just like through social media.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I couldn't believe you were real. The real Simone.
You're real. Exactly. Exactly. And so I think we were at Sir Winston's. There was a show there. And then from that show, you went to do a gala show, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
Straight to a gala.
Yeah.
It was pretty bananas.
No kidding.
And that show, I recall doing like mediocre. That week leading up to the gala show, all the shows I did were either horrible bombs or these underwhelming mediocre performances that I was like, oh God, am I about to eat shit at a gala event? You people hate this material.
Oh my God. I think that's a thing though. Because I had a big thing this past week, and I would say that all my shows, I'd say like the 6 shows leading up to that, same thing, like lackluster, things falling flat, me forgetting tags and stuff like that I was like, am I going to eat shit on this big event sort of thing? And it all worked out. It all fell into place. So I think that's some kind of preparation that happens.
A law of comedy, maybe some kind of a fate that we all share, that it might be. I'll take it as a good sign from now on if I have a big show coming up and I'm just eating shit at every show leading up. I'm gonna be like, this is gonna be amazing.
Exactly. Because I know I started to panic because bits I've been doing, bits that like I know cold and I'm so familiar with, forgetting tags or leaving them out completely, and I was like, what's going on? What's happening? Sort of thing. So it must be, I think it's some sort of mental preparation for a
Yeah.
big event like that. So
Yeah. Every time I get booed off stage, I'll be like, everything is going
yeah, it's going
according
according
to
to plan.
plan.
Exactly. Exactly. Was that your first time at JFL?
No, I did New Faces the year before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That's exciting.
I was an old face
An
immediately.
old
It,
face like
it only took me a year to be old.
you're like an iPhone sort of thing.
Yeah. I age like an iPhone.
So how long have you been doing comedy?
16 years.
16 years.
Yeah, I
Wow.
started when I was a little baby. I
When you're a little
started
baby.
first thing out of university. I knew in high school it's what I wanted to do. So as soon as I went to Western, University of Western Ontario. And
I did a year there
oh
100
yeah?
years ago. Yeah.
What'd you study?
Uh I think it was called administrative and something studies. I think it was administrative and commercial studies. I think that's what it was called.
Neat.
Yeah, I survived one year, and my parents summoned me back to Montreal. It was my
Yeah.
first time on my own, and I went a little nuts. So I had to go home. Like,
Really? So they actually railed you in. They like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
wow.
I was just
Railed.
out of
Reeled. I meant reeled. They railed you in. What does that even mean? But yeah, was it the partying?
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too much partying.
Yeah.
I think I went to class like the until I made friends. And
Uh,
then and then I was all over the place. But yeah, yeah,
yeah.
my parents weren't happy with me. But okay, so you went to Western, and when you finished, you're like,
And
I'm
then
gonna
when I
do this.
finished, I moved immediately to Toronto. I was like, let's do this.
Oh wow.
I knew from high school that this is what I wanted to do. So
Oh cool.
it's just been dedicated ever since.
That's amazing. Because
Yeah.
I knew from like 15 as well, but I waited like 40 years before I actually attempted, you know.
That must have driven you crazy.
It
Was it just
did because it kept popping up. It kept popping up, you know, and I was too afraid. And there were too many things that I was like, yeah, I can't do it right now. I can't do it right now.
yeah.
And then yeah, then a whole bunch of life-changing stuff, and I was like, you know what? I've been fighting this for like 40 years. Let me do something about it. And I expected it to be
Yeah.
like a bucket list thing. Like I'll do it once and that's the end, but no, that didn't happen. That
See,
didn't
Simone,
happen.
I love hearing that because honestly, and I'm not I hope this doesn't come across as patronizing, but like I'm sure you also meet a million people who are all like, I've always wanted to try it and like I'll do it eventually.
Yeah.
I think it would be really good. But unfortunately, most of these people never,
Never do
ever,
it.
ever get around to it. So I think like yeah, the fact that you had this thing on your mind and some people go to their graves with these regrets of things that they
Yeah, and
never
that's what
did
I
and
didn't
like
want to do
you
that.
did
I
it.
didn't want that to
Yeah.
happen, you know, because every couple of years it would, and I only started it when I moved to Ottawa. Like I lived in, I'm from Montreal, but I lived in Toronto for 17 years, and it popped up about a dozen times there. And
Mhm.
I was like, nope, can't do it. Nope, nope, can't.
No? What were the reasons typically?
Oh, typically it was I think disapproval, like say from my parents. Like my parents, I felt my parents wouldn't understand.
Mm.
um yeah, I just felt like nobody would be like, oh, that's great, you know, and that I felt it was going to be something that I have to do in secret, sort of thing. And I didn't know like how to start or where to go or anything, you know. I didn't know the steps to get started. But I think it was mainly fear, and fear of like, what if nobody laughs, and then fear of judgment
Mhm.
from the
Yeah,
people closest to me, you know.
classic.
But yeah, yeah. And
And
then
how's that
yeah,
worked out?
it's worked out pretty good. It's worked out pretty
Nice.
good. You know, it's worked out pretty well, you know. And it's the type of thing, it's like, thank God I I did it, you know,
Hmm.
because it was already bothering me, like having it creep up and push it away for decades. That already bothered me, and I was like, it's now or never.
Oh
You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like if I don't do it, it's that's going to be a regret. It'll
I
be a
love that.
regret. Yeah.
See,
So
that's so empowering. Listeners,
yeah.
take fucking notes.
It's never too late. It's never too
Yeah.
late. It's never too late, you know?
I will say this. It also tends to be that when comedians start later in life, not that you're aged,
I am though.
you're fresh as a daisy, but I'm just saying, as opposed to comedians who start like when I did at 18 years old, you don't have enough life experience to be interesting, to have anything insightful to say. And so comedians who do start, the later you start, the quicker you get at being good because you already have a pretty strong point of view and you know who you are and all of
Exactly.
those things that really make up a lot of what a stand-up comic
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I'd lived a lot of life, you know? Like I was 52 when I started, so I'd been married, divorced, you know, parents
Hmm.
parents dead, friends dead, like the whole gamut of everything that I had a lot of life experience to draw on. It was just the formulating it into bits, into
Hmm.
jokes. That was that that I had to learn, but I had the life experience, you know. I didn't have to be like, what am I going to write about? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you know, just having lived, you know, just being fully hatched. You know, by the
Yeah.
time I started, I had a lot of material to draw on, a lot of
Yeah.
experience to draw on. Yeah.
It was all there just waiting to be
Hmm.
exercised.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But so you've been doing it for 16 years.
Hmm.
Your comedy obviously must have changed
Oh yeah.
when you
Um
go
yeah, yes and
going
no. I
through your
think
change. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So for the listeners at home, I am a trans woman. I don't know if we should probably mention that.
Okay.
That's why I sound like Bart Simpson, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I was a very broy dude. Ugh, killing a bug on my desk. It got away. Well, fuck now, it could be anywhere.
That's the thing. It's
Oh,
like you
god
gotta
damn
see
it.
it. You gotta see it at all
Oh,
times.
fuck.
It's like, where is it?
Um, yeah, so I started out as a real like party boy dancing monkey kind of thing. I did my best to emulate Dane Cook. He was a big
Ah,
inspiration for me, and all of that, everything that I was on stage was this projection. It was a deflection more than a projection. It was just
mm,
me like deflecting away from anything that could be personal, anything that anybody could really find out about who I was deep down, because I was also struggling with that. And
yeah.
so a lot of my material is very inconsequential, kind of finances would come away being like, that guy's a blast. I would have a beer with him and then just forget about it kind of thing. And so my material, whereas I retain a lot of that physicality and the energy that I
Mhm.
always had. See, the DNA is all still there,
Right.
but the material uh in particular has gone and has undergone the most significant change because it's a transitioning journey, and it's like it's the material writes itself a lot of the time. It's
Right.
very easy to write about the crazy shit that I'm going through, and
Oh yeah.
so it's a lot more personal and anecdotal, whereas it never used to be.
Mm.
And then I'm still a goof on stage. I still like to goof around.
As I like I said earlier, I follow you on TikTok, and I think you're so good. And I just love how you take like what could be like very like traumatic or very painful situations and make them hilarious.
Yeah.
Just make them hilarious. Like, and I think we all do that to a degree, you know,
Mhm.
but you're on a very, very personal journey, and I just think it's brilliant how you can pull the funny out of what I can only imagine are very traumatic experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I still this might have something to do with it. I've been reflecting on where that comes from. I think I try to practice a lot of gratitude constantly. I really try and incorporate that in my life. And so I think my material kind of comes from that sense of like, how can we how can we use this to our advantage? How can I be what can I be grateful about? And I think that's if I were to dissect a lot of my material, that's kind of the thesis underneath it all is like
Mm,
where's the positive? What do I have to be grateful for in the end?
right.
Like the joke that I posted today about periods,
Yes.
how I get a lot of hate online and people are like, you'll never have a period. And I'm like,
I'm like,
good.
good.
I don't
Like
want one.
that.
And so the bullshit that life throws at me, I jujitsu it in a way, I twist it around in a way that makes me grateful in the end. And I think
Mhm,
there's a lot of good comedy to be taken out of that.
for
It's
sure.
triumphant.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Was it difficult? Like when okay, comedy, like personally or comedy, was it comedy wise, was it difficult? Was it difficult to come out as a transgender comic? Was that change, that switch difficult for you? Like was there resistance
Um,
or anything?
Honestly, the comedy community has uh, um embraced me very beautifully. I gotta say, the people who I expected to be kind of shitheads about it were already on the outskirts, the peripheries of my social circles, so it never really affected me. I think I don't know if this is a Toronto thing, but I gotta say the Toronto community just has been so wonderful to me. So good. And talk about grateful. I'm just super grateful. Everybody was really nice. Everybody made it really easy.
Oh,
And,
that's great.
people misgender me all the time. They're
Hmm.
getting better at it, but that kind of stuff it's growing pains. It's bound to happen. But everybody treats me with respect, and the people who don't, I don't
They don't
they're
ever,
so
yeah.
easy to exclude from myself and from the broader community. They hate those
Right.
people anyways. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear
it's been
that.
beautiful. It's been great.
That's good. That's good. What has been like who hey, so you mentioned Dane Cook was your like inspiration or your influence. Do you have any other favorites or influences?
Um, I mean, I love I Bo Burnham is a genius, of course.
Yes.
Um, and then I love Patton Oswalt and Paul F. Tompkins and Arch Barker. Those were the early guys that I used to listen to. I used to watch a lot of physical like sketch stuff like Mr. Bean. I was a
Okay.
massive fan of. I always loved Monty Python so much. So like stand-up influences is kind of hard to pick my favorites as much as like I've just always loved sketch and TV and stuff like
Okay.
yeah, Mr. Bean and Monty Python were early childhood influences, big time.
Okay. Okay,
And
that's
then stand-up, yeah, I would say Dane Cook. I had a bit long Dane Cook phase.
okay. I liked him
But
too. I liked him too.
what I wanted, like when I was young and when I decided I wanted to be like him, it was more than just the comedy too. Like listening to his albums, you can feel this crackling energy in the audience that transcends just people at a comedy show. They're like excited to see some jokes, sure, but if you can just tell that his shows were these rock concerts. People were like bouncing in their seats. People
Yeah,
were just like so more engaged than your typical comedy audience. Just
for
like there
sure.
was
For
an
sure.
activity, a
Yeah.
physicality, and action to it all
Yeah.
that I
And they're
really
going to
wanted.
see him at that point.
Yeah,
So everyone's like, "Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool energy. That's a
Hmm.
incredible energy. Um so my next question was like how do you come up with material, but we were talking about how it's just life. It's just life happens,
Yeah.
and
That question is really hard to answer. It's life.
Mhm.
Yeah, things happen
Yeah.
to you and then you process them, appropriately first. Hopefully, you
Mhm.
kind of you mourn if it's a shitty experience. And
Yeah.
we as comedians, this is how we cope
Yeah.
too. So it's got its
Exactly.
own uh, miniature process.
Yeah. Are there thing is anything off limits in your comedy?
I've learned to stay away from my family. I
Okay.
had a joke about an experience I had with my mom, and that joke made it into my first taping for CBC Gem.
Okay.
New Wave of Stand Up, season 1, episode 3. If anybody's interested, it's the closing joke. I won't quote it or anything, but um, yeah, I learned even though it was an honest retelling of what happened and the pain that it caused, I realized that I have a responsibility to represent the people I love, and I don't want to take that frivolously. I don't want to take that lightly, and nor do I want them to live uncomfortably around me, to always kind of walk around on eggshells knowing that I could turn whatever they say
Yeah.
into some bit on stage, and then our circles that know me and them are gonna therefore kind of judge them by extension, and I don't want to do that to my family, so I might as well protect them by omitting them entirely. As far as anybody's concerned, I'm adopted.
Okay. As I know when I started my I can't remember if I approached my sister, if my sister approached me. Um, but it came out that I was like, if um I will ask you first.
Mhm.
I will if I'm thinking about something that involves you, I'll ask you first, and get your take on it and stuff like that. Like my parents are gone, so I don't have to run anything by them. But
Yeah.
I do have one bit about my mom,
Mhm.
but it's not negative or anything. It's just you know, it, something she did that was like mortifying at the time, but it was like an act of love sort of thing.
Right.
But
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
see it that way. I was like, "What?" What are you trying to do to me like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do I do have 2 jokes when I think about it, about, my dad and my niece and nephew. So, I'll make an exception and say that I do run those by those family members, and they're cool with them.
Mhm.
So maybe I should just say I keep my mom off limits. My
Yeah.
mom doesn't like it when I talk about her, so I'll
Okay.
I'll honor her.
Yeah. Cause like I have some stuff that I'm still working on um that involves my parents, and I'd ask my sister, like, are you cool if I talk about this? Because
Mhm.
like anything family related, it's going to affect her as well, or
Yeah.
it could affect her. So, um, yeah, I've asked her, are you okay with me talking about X, Y, Z? You know,
Yeah.
and like, I don't think she's ever said no, you can't talk about that or don't talk about that.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It
and like you, I don't want my friends and family to be like, oh, I can't say anything, or I better watch what I say because it's going to end up on stage or
yeah.
something. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it would break my heart to know
Hmm.
that they're, guarding their language around me?
Exactly, exactly. But you probably get a lot of, oh, you can use that in your little skit.
Oh god,
I
I
get
get that
that
all
so
the time.
I get that all the time too. You're not going to use it, are you? They want you to use it. They want you to use it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My brother does that to me all the time. My brother is so funny. He'll roast me all the time. He'll say that I'm not funny and that and that I need a writer and that he should be my writer. And then he just gives me the cheesiest shit, and I love him for it. It's so funny.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. Because
Every time I
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Every time I tell my family like, "Hey, I got this really cool gig," he's always the first one to be like, "Hey, maybe you'll be funny this time." I'm like, "Oh, you son of a bitch."
Do you still get nervous before performing?
I do. Yeah. It especially depends on the place. So, rowdy small towns, I did one this week, and um I'm not beyond assessing an audience and being like, these people are gonna hate me.
Mm,
And
same. Me too.
especially post transition, I look at like Shelburne, Ontario. We did a gig. I have no idea what the population is, but it's far enough rural that you look around, and people came up to me after the show and they were like, you're the first of your kind I've ever met. And
I've gotten that too. Like,
yeah,
really?
yeah.
Like,
So I'm sure you can relate. Like you assess an audience and you're like, oh, I do not fit in here.
mhm.
Let's see how this goes. This is gonna
Yeah.
be rough.
Yeah. Most
Oh,
times I've been pleasantly surprised. Like I haven't had anything horrifying or like frightening happen. But yeah, I've walked in and I've been like, "Oh, okay." Not sure how this is gonna go, but you just go and you do your stuff and you know, I've always been pleasantly surprised.
yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I
Yeah.
think if you stand with your material and it's solid and it's well
Hmm.
structured, then and if it's
Exactly.
universal, you just have to make sure there's a
Yeah.
universality to it all, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Did you during lockdown, during the pandemic still happening, but during like quarantine and everything, did you embrace Zoom? Did you say hell no to Zoom? Like how did you stay busy comedy wise?
I did a lot of Zoom shows.
Yeah, me
I
too.
embraced it. Did
Same.
you?
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too.
I
Yeah.
like I totally I don't disagree with comics who are like it's not the same. And
Yeah, it's
of
not the
course it
same.
isn't.
Yeah, of course not. It can't be.
It can't be. But I've also always been a proponent of adaptation, and you have to be able to adapt to be a good comic because
Hmm.
you can't control for everything all the time.
Right.
And the more flexible you are, the better you're always going to be. And the more
Exactly.
open-minded and the fresher your material stays,
Hmm.
it's just so necessary. And so Zoom, I just saw that as an opportunity, even though it stunk a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
it was hard. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's true.
Yeah,
It's not the same.
it
But
was
I
still an
learned a lot
opportunity.
though. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right?
Still an opportunity to perform. Like I'm glad to hear you say that you embraced it, especially having because by the time that you had what 13 years of experience by the
Mhm.
time lockdown happened, I had 6 months.
Oof.
So I was like just starting to get momentum and then it ended and I was like I still need to do this. I'm gonna go mental if I don't do this anymore. So
Yeah.
that's when and I think because I was so new, it was an easy pivot, you
Mhm.
know. Um, but I know it helped me with silence. It made me more comfortable with silence because like in those first few months, like if something didn't land and it was just silent, I'd get nervous and I'd start laughing just to like fill the air. I'd be like, ha ha ha, like
Yeah,
just to,
yeah.
to fill the air. And I like Zoom forces you to, it's silent. You don't know who's listening, who's paying attention or
Yeah.
what. So,
Zoom really teaches you to plow through your
mhm,
material just to like grit your
exactly.
teeth and
Yeah, and just do
try and
it.
make it work. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. And I also felt that when things started to open up, that I hit the ground running just because I was still doing it, and then I went
yeah,
behind plexiglass after, you
yeah. And
know.
and I think you have absolutely the right mindset. I totally applaud you for that because people who just kind of threw their hands up and were like, I'm too good for Zoom, you're gonna rust.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
same, but it's
It's
still a skill.
exactly. And you still like I would still prepare the same way. I would
Mhm.
still okay, I'd be wearing like sweatpants or no pants, but I'd have my hair done, makeup on, like still come to the show sort of thing. I treated it the same way as if I
Yeah.
were going out to a venue. Um But
Totally.
yeah, you're just in a room screaming at your computer. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I did honestly get some good material out of it, you
yeah,
know?
same,
And you can
same
find a way
here.
to do crowd work too. If people's mics
Oh
and
yeah,
video things are often, you can point out the crappy
yeah.
art that they have in their living room. You can call
Exactly.
people out by name. Their
Yeah,
names
because
are
their
on the
name is
screen.
right there. Exactly. You put that gallery view so you see everybody.
Yep.
There were ways to, because I remember the first few things, it was like over Facebook Live, which is just one way.
Mhm.
There's no interaction. And I remember the very first online thing I did, I was just basically saying all the jokes I knew, because there was like a maybe a 10 or 15-second delay
Mhm.
in the response. So you'd say something and you've already moved on, you're a bit or two ahead, and then the laughing emojis from your
Oh
last bit
god.
came up. It was weird. And then
Oh
somebody said,
no.
we should do this on Zoom or Skype or something. And so that got better. That got better. But
Oh god.
yeah,
I've never
I
had
think,
that happen.
yeah, that was my very, very first online thing, and it was over Facebook Live, and I never
Mhm.
did another Facebook Live after that. It had been Zoom
Yeah.
after. But yeah, I didn't want that when things opened up that I was like, oh, it's been 2.5 years since I've been on stage, since I've performed live or performed period.
Mhm.
I didn't want that, so
Yeah.
yeah. And I think after about a year, I know there were people who were like adamant against it, started coming around, because it was like, okay, well, maybe we might be like this is how it might be for a little while.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah. And I met a ton of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Mhm.
That I made
Yeah.
connections that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet people from like California or New York or anything like that.
Totally. And not only that, but it is a bonding experience because you're kind of in the shit. It's
Yeah, we were all in the same boat.
yeah,
Exactly. We
totally.
were all in the same situation. What so far has been your best experience in comedy?
I have to say that gala taping was uh till now up until now the highest moment of my career, the highest point because I talk a lot about adaptation and being flexible. All of all of my experience and that open-mindedness to I had to get it right. Um uh being willing to adapt and always prepared for chaos to happen and to roll with it.
Mhm.
Um it really lent itself to that show because a minute in, I'm setting up a joke, and this disembodied voice comes over the PA, and it's indistinguishable. You can't hear what it's saying, but it's loud, and it
Oh,
interrupted my set, and it was just like,
oh,
and I froze and I stopped. And this is a theater of 1,500 people, and everyone heard it. It was
yes.
really loud, and I looked into the wings because I was like, was that a technical difficulty? Are they going to tell me to like start the joke over again for the purposes of TV or whatever? And when I realized that nobody was coming to help and that I was completely on my own, I just looked up at the ceiling. I was like, God, is that you? And and I riffed for a minute on that. I kept going with it too. I was just like, can it wait? I'm in the middle of something really important right now. And I just kept going, and it got applause breaks, and then I just seamlessly moved back in my material and finished my set. And I think about that as I'm just so proud
Yeah,
of
yeah.
not only did the show go well, but it really showcased the culmination of my life's work of improvising and being
Yes.
ready and being sharp and being
Yes.
playful with shit that happens in your
Yeah,
set
because you
that
could
could
have you
go
could have
wrong.
frozen, it could have thrown you way off. Like it could have derailed
Yeah,
your set, and it didn't. And that's
it didn't.
amazing.
most important show of my life, and I was still
Yeah.
relaxed enough to just
Yeah.
play, and I'm so proud of myself for
Oh,
that. I
that's
love that.
amazing. That's amazing. That's a proud moment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be hard to beat. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. That's
And
pretty
the
awesome.
unfortunate thing, but I find this like ironic, this morbid poetry in this, that it won't make it to TV, that particular moment, because you couldn't hear it on the mics or whatever. I was told that like it just doesn't translate on
Oh,
TV.
okay.
And
Oh,
so
the big sound wouldn't have been heard.
it wouldn't have been picked up on their
Oh,
microphones.
okay.
It wouldn't have, I guess they would have needed to contextualize it with text or something to be like, by the way, this wasn't supposed to happen. A giant booming voice came out.
Oh,
You know,
so it was
it's
just
just
for the
too
people
much.
in that room that
Yeah. So I
experienced
think
it.
there's something beautiful and poetic about we had this shared experience that
Yeah.
lives on in a story, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. How do you deal with hecklers? Is that a thing? Does that happen often to you,
I
or
tend
just
to
say
over and
people calling out, not necessarily
yeah,
negative, but just like interrupting?
I tend to overindulge it. I tend to encourage it.
Okay.
I'm a nightmare to comedians who follow me for that reason.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that like, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
kind of encouraged and rile up the audience enough that they think they can talk to any comic after me.
Oh, I see.
And
Yes.
so that's always been kind of a problem. I need to like I need to pull it back a little bit. But like I invite interaction because it keeps me sharp, and by
Mm.
now I'm like confident that I'm just ready. I'm just confident enough that I can handle whatever's thrown
Handle
at me.
whatever. Okay, that's cool. That's good.
And so I encourage it, but sometimes it it backfires, and drunk audiences don't get it, that, you know, I encourage it, but also shut up at a certain point.
Yeah,
And drunk
exactly.
audiences don't get the
They don't get
cap, the
that other
limit.
part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you?
I've if I can just plow through it, I will. Because
Mhm.
sometimes somebody might say something. I heard what I could hear sounds, but I can't make out what they said. So in that case, I would just continue.
Mhm.
But yeah, a couple of times it's just been like blatant people starting a conversation, at the table or pulling out their phones and doing stuff. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, excuse me, you know. Yeah, about a month ago,
Hello.
this guy got up and went for a drink, and I was like, okay, that's fine. But when he came back, he starts like, okay, after the show, we're gonna do this and blah blah blah, like, and loud. And they were sitting in the front, and I just
Yeah.
stopped, and I'm like, really? I'm just trying to do my job here,
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't happen often, but when it depends on like how intrusive it is. If it's something that um like that last one just really brought the show to a halt because they were so loud.
Mhm.
um I usually say something like, or give a death glare or something. But if it's just somebody reacting, or it's like a spontaneous thing, depending on, yeah, most times I just, I might look at them and go, yeah, yeah, I agree, and just
Mhm.
move on, sort of thing. But yeah, I don't want to get into an engage, like, I don't want to engage, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, so I try not to, but fortunately it doesn't happen that often for me. But
Mhm. For the
um
most part, people are good, but
yeah.
I totally get like I haven't had to do this much, but when people are full on having conversations and
Hmm.
ignoring you, it's amazing the power of silence. Just like stopping
Yes,
mid
yes.
sentence and
Yeah,
looking at
that's what I
them.
usually do, just stop.
Yeah, and then they feel the whole audience like it's they think that they're hidden with noise, but it just exposes them for being the only ones in the room talking, and then they get
Exactly.
really self-conscious. It's an easy tactic just to
Yeah,
like
you just stop. Yeah, that's usually
just
what I
look
do,
at
is I
them.
just stop. And then they're like, that you could see the thing, like, oh, there, it's quiet. Why is it so quiet?
Yeah,
Everyone's staring at me. It's like, shut the
yeah,
fuck up.
yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So if What advice do you wish you, how can I, been asking this question for 3 years and I still can't word it properly. What ad, like what advice would you give your new comic self? Like
Oh man.
if you met your brand new comic self starting out, what advice would you, what advice do you wish you, I guess it's two questions. What advice
Mhm.
do you wish you had when you first started? And what advice would you give your past self at the
I
start of
love
your
that
comedy,
question.
at the start of your comedy community?
I love that question. So I was asked that in Montreal, I think the day after that gala set, and I broke out into tears.
Um,
I got so emotional because all at once I was hit with just how far I've come and how different things are now, and how closeted and how self-loathing I was back then. And so the advice that I would give myself, it would just be reassurance. It would just be like everything's gonna be all right. It's a long, long journey,
yeah.
and don't lose hope.
Hmm.
And oh no.
I know, I'm feeling it too. I'm like, yeah,
And just, count on the fact that people will be there to catch you if you open up. If you just open up, and
yeah,
it's okay if you don't, and you have all the time in the world, and it's a long game, and you'll get there eventually. Just
yeah,
be patient and be kind to yourself.
yes, yeah. That, yeah. I think that's like, I think a lot of people struggle with the be kind to ourselves. I think comics in particular, we're pretty harsh on ourselves. Excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can be pretty pretty rough on ourselves, you know? And yeah, no, that's good advice. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. To stay kind. Get down. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah, to stay the course, keep doing what you're doing, and to be kind to yourself along the way,
Yeah.
you know, to be kind to,
Yeah.
and to others too. Treat everybody nicely.
Yeah. And okay, so this won't be as emotional. Sorry, crying
That's
a little bit.
okay. That's okay.
Um, but I would also say, and this easily applies to any new comic, is that don't sweat the small stuff. I remember in my like second year of stand up, I didn't make it to the next round of some local who gives a fuck comedy competition in London, and I wrote an essay to the judges after about how I deserved to be in the finals of London's funniest person. And like, if I could give my young self any advice, and what I hear young comics stress about, it's I don't want it to come across as dismissive, but it is amazing how when you look back over the course of your journey, you just the small stuff never matters, and like
Mhm.
these things always pass, and your success, then the sum of every failure and every success, it's growth. Success is growth.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so don't sweat the small failure isn't even a thing. Don't sweat the small
Yeah. Because
uh
it's all
hang-ups.
growth. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that 1,000%. Because I remember, um, I was, I hadn't even hit my first year. Yeah, I hadn't even hit my first year, and there was a competition. I got to the semifinals, which I was so excited about, and I didn't make it to the finals, and I was crushed because I was like, I
Yeah.
did really well, and I was crushed, you know. But that fueled me
Yeah.
because I was like, next year my goal is to make it to the finals. So I had something to work towards. So it's like a failure is not always a failure. Sometimes that's because there's an expression that you're not supposed to get everything you want, like you get what you get what you need when you need it, sort of
I
thing,
love
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
I butchered it, but something like that. Like
Mhm.
if you don't achieve something today, it's not meant for you today. Maybe you'll achieve it, or maybe you'll achieve it later, or you'll achieve something else in the meantime. There's something different, or not necessarily better, but something different for
Yeah,
you. Like that might have not have been your path, and you didn't get it because instead of going this way, you're meant to go that way or something,
absolutely.
you know?
I
So
I completely agree.
mhm,
You sort of you're ready and for and you deserve the things that happen to you. That sounds mean.
mhm,
You I'm not a believer in things happen for a reason, but this is a
mhm.
different version of that where it's like the opportunities come when
When you're
you're
ready for
prepared
them.
for them,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And like I didn't get into JFL for obviously until like my 14th year in comedy. And uh I was by that time I was ready.
Yeah.
And it is a tragedy when people get those before they're ready because it kind of sets them back a little bit. But even setbacks, like I said,
Mhm.
growth should be the goal, not
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
checklist of things to do. Growth is
Right.
the victory. Growth is always the
Exactly.
victory.
Exactly. And it's not it's like failure isn't bad. Failure isn't always bad.
Hmm.
You know, failure is like maybe just a redirection or something, or um there are things you still need to work on and things like that. That's how I look at it. And like and the thing is, that being said, if you know, if you're working really hard towards something and it didn't come to pass, you're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be like, oh, you know,
Hmm.
I wish things had been different.
Of
Like, you're allowed
course.
to feel that, you know, you're allowed to feel that, but it doesn't take away from what you're doing. It doesn't take away from who you are as a person, who you are as an artist. You
Hmm.
know, your talent, your abilities, your skill doesn't, none of that is affected, you
Yeah.
know. But you were saying earlier about like being open and having like a positive outlook and stuff, that helps you embrace change, that helps you embrace um or not embrace, but deal with adversity or setbacks or disappointments and things like that. If you still have, you know, you still have your goals and stuff, and you're still working towards your goals. And I've learned just from life that from point A to point B is not a straight line,
Hmm.
you know. And it's not the shortest of, like, it's not the shortest distance between 2 points. Like, you could be, it could look like you're going from here to here, but you're like
Yeah.
all over the place. You'll get there eventually, but you'll go on all these side treks, you know, along the way, you know,
Yeah.
like, because stuff happens, like a pandemic happens, illness, whatever, like all kinds of things that we can't control happen,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
and
But
sometimes by the time you get to point B, you're like, oh, I've been to point Y.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. Point B is
point
cool
B
to have,
doesn't
but
matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did all the other points too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And like I love Oprah, and Oprah always used to say, she didn't believe in luck, that luck is preparation
Mm.
meeting meeting opportunity. And so
Mhm.
I carry that along. So whenever it's like there's something that I'm like, oh, maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew, and it's like, no, I'm prepared, I'm ready, and this opportunity came. And you know, you look at it that way, that you've done the work, and the opportunities, you know, the opportunities are always there, and once you're doing the work, you'll hit them. You'll hit them at different times, but you'll
Definitely.
hit them. You'll get them.
Definitely.
You'll get them. It's just to keep
Yeah.
working hard, you know?
There is a law of attraction between the two.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that. And I know it's hard to conceptualize that, but I believe in it greatly, you
Yeah.
know?
And
Yeah.
people who dismiss your successes based on luck have no idea the culmination of work that it takes to
Yes.
get there.
Yes.
They're just seeing the big picture and think that it
Hmm.
happened overnight, and
Yeah.
that is never the case.
No, there's always a lot of hard work that goes into it, and a lot of
Hmm.
preparation. Just like how most audiences at a comedy show don't realize how much work goes into preparing 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes. Like a 30-minute set, that's years. That's
Yeah,
years of writing, sort of thing. A 5-minute set could be weeks and hours, and like everything that goes into it before you get up on stage and do it,
totally.
because it looks like we just talk off the top of our heads, and we don't.
No,
it's
yeah.
it's not off the top of our heads. it's
It
it's
takes a lot of
it take
practice.
exactly, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of practice to make it look that way, like it's spontaneous, like, oh, I'm just going to go up there and talk for
Hmm.
10 minutes or 20 minutes or something, when it's very precise. Because that, for me, that's the beauty of comedy, of stand up. It looks very loose, and anything goes, but it's very, very precise.
Hmm.
Like if you just think of the structure of a show, it's like, okay, you have 15 minutes, I have 10 minutes. You got to stay within that. Then there are other people who are going to make up the show for an hour and a half.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's
Mm.
like, you don't go over your time. Like somebody flashes you the light, wrap it up so that the next person can go, and so on. Like it's very precise,
Hmm.
but I think of it like jazz, where it's like all over the place, but it's structured. There's
I like
structure
that.
to it, there's
Yeah.
structure to it. And I just think that's beautiful, that it's like this organized chaos
Hmm.
sort of thing, which is
Jazz. I love it. And
jazz.
you picked like the coolest genre too.
Yeah, jazz. Yeah, it's like polka,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
the randomness of polka. Like, you so for our last few minutes, I have some I have a list of 250 questions that I'm not going to ask you all 250, obviously, but I'll ask you to to select numbers between 1 and 250, and then I'll ask you the corresponding question. And
Okay.
some of them are silly, some of them are deep, some of them are random. It's so anything can happen with
Okay.
this.
144. Give me
140,
144.
144. Okay, let me just bring this up. So 144. Okay, that question is, what is one thing you will never do again?
Oh, one of okay, in my like third year of comedy, I was dating a girl whose family ran a Bible quoting competition in Muskoka, and they
Bible
invited
quoting?
a Bible quoting competition.
Okay.
I'm definitely gonna do a bit about it someday because it is wild. Um, and she was super holy, and I am not. I'm an atheist. And I was asked to come do an hour. 3 years in, I'm
An
amateur. I don't know what
hour.
I'm doing, and they got me to do an hour of clean comedy for these Bible thumpers. And like, I'll never do something like that again. I will be able to say no at this point. Be like,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
first of all, why did you pick me? What?
And an
Do you have
hour
any
of
idea who I
clean.
am? Yeah.
Yeah, do you even know me? Like this? An hour of clean. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh
You
my
must have the
God.
wrong person. No, no thanks.
Oh man, that's tough. That would be tough.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
Okay, give me 244.
244. Okay.
Do you want to answer that too, actually?
Um, what's one thing I would never do again? Is probably
Yeah.
get married.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll get married ever again. I don't think. Yeah, that's one thing I would like.
Yeah.
Done. Been there, done that. Not happening again. You said 244?
Yes.
Okay, so that says, would you rather be held in high regard by your parents or your friends?
Ooh. Oh, wow, that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I wish I could say both.
Yeah, I wish I could say both too. 'Cause they're both important. Like,
They're both important, but um, I'm gonna say this kind of morbidly, but like your parents probably are less likely to be around as long as your friends are, and um, your friends are your family.
yeah.
So I would say friends if I had to pick.
Yeah.
What about
That
you?
that's a hard one. That's a hard one because I like both my parents are gone. They're both gone, but it's like I want it was always important for me that
Hmm.
they thought well of me, sort of not just like, oh, I'm their daughter, they love me, but that they thought I was like a decent person. So that's important to me, and yeah, my friends too. I don't know which one would eke out the other, because they're both important. And I'm talking like close
Yeah.
friends, like not
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
peripheral friends, like
Yeah.
close friends. I don't know. I think I'd have to go with parents.
Oh yeah.
I think I'd go with parents.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I think it would really, yeah, I think it would just bother me if they didn't think well of me. It would bother me with my friends too, but for I think based on the relationship I had with my parents, if they didn't think well of me, that would hurt me. That would really
Yeah.
really bother me.
See, and yeah, I agree. I
Yeah, but
agree.
it's both. Like, you want your friends to
Yeah.
feel the same way too.
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
So when I think about my particular situation as well, like transitioning, you sort of learn to give up on a certain level what
Mm,
like caring about what other people think about you.
yeah,
And while I do obviously very much desire the approval of my parents, this is not a difficult, this is not an easy, sorry, yeah, this is not an easy decision to make. And this is one that I had to make selfishly and be like, I have to, on a certain level, exercise not a lack of care for what other people think about me, but like
like for yourself.
some
Yeah.
autonomy from that, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that also informs my answer, I would say.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. That makes
Because if
total
you
sense.
if you live for the approval of your parents, your life, you can't, it's harder to claim your own life as your own. It's harder to be
Yeah.
autonomous and independent from that.
It's true. And I think that I don't want it to sound like, oh, my parents prevented me from doing comedy. I think I was so concerned with what they would think
Hmm.
that I didn't pursue it. And even some of the stuff I do now, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if, like, say I decide to pursue it while they were still here. I'm pretty sure my comedy would be different,
Hmm. Yeah.
because it's certain things I wouldn't want to talk, I wouldn't want them to hear and say in front of them and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and I think that goes deep. That goes way back.
I can totally see that being the case.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to do one more before we wrap up?
Let's do one more.
Okay,
I love the number four.
number
Let's
4.
do not 4 4. Let's do 44. I've done
44? Okay.
144, 240. Let's do 44, 44.
44? Okay. This one says, oh, would you rather wear a wedding dress / tuxedo every single day, or wear a bathing suit every single day?
Oh, that's a good one. I love wearing a bikini now. I'm not very I have very little experience in both wedding dresses and bikinis, but I think a wedding dress would be really fun to wear
Me
every
too.
day.
Me too. With all the flounce, all of it, my
Oh
veil,
yeah.
all of it.
Yes.
I'd have like all out. I have all out my train, everything.
Yes, the poofiest, most obnoxious
Exactly.
thing.
It's this giant cupcake
Yeah.
thing for sure. Yeah, I'm all over that. I'm all over that.
If I
Where
drop
it just
something on
takes
the
up the
ground,
room.
it's gone. Yeah, it's done. I'm
Exactly.
never, my corset is too tight. I can't bend over.
You have to have attendants with you
Yeah.
like that. Well, thank
That's
you
an easy
so
one.
much. So yeah, that was a fun one. That was
Yeah.
that one has never been asked. That one and
Yes.
the actually all three of the questions have never been asked
Nice.
in previous shows. So thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you?
I am all over social media at Alval Comedy on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find my stand-up on CBC Gem. Like I said, New Wave of Stand-Up Season 1, Episode 3. I am on the stand-up show with John Dore, Season 2, Episode 6. That's on Crave. And just please follow me on social media because I'm trying to grow my following, and I will be coming out with a debut album at some point in the new year, and I'm
Oh,
very excited
nice.
about that. I think it's gonna blow up. I'm
That's
really,
amazing.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
just follow
Congrats.
me, please.
Yes, I'll put all your details in the show notes for this
Yes.
episode. And thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful to catch up with you.
Can I promo one more thing? Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
I am also in, I should know the date by heart, but in February on Out TV, which is a sub thing of Apple TV. I think it's on Apple TV. I will be in season 3 of Drag Heels, it's called. And it was like this docu-series where they followed myself and 5 other artists around as we like put together a one-person show. And it's very, if you like my story beyond the comedy, then that is a very powerful, moving little journey, a little
Oh,
experience that
nice.
I
And
had
that's on Out TV in February.
in February. Yeah,
Okay,
Out
amazing.
TV / Apple TV, whichever.
Okay.
They're the same.
All right, I'll include that as well. I'll
But thank you
include
so
that
much
as
for
well.
having me. I
Oh,
really appreciate it.
thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking your time to talk with me. And this was fun.
I had a blast, and I hope to
Yay.
run into you in person, and I'll recognize you a
Yes,
lot
you recognize me
faster
this
next time.
time. Yeah, no problem. No problem. No problem. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Simone.
yeah, it was lovely talking to you, and
You
we'll
too.
talk soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Do I
Bye
leave or
everyone.
is
Thank
the
you.
record?
Yeah, no, we can just bye everyone.